Good morning, crew. Welcome to this week's Raw Vlog. Raw Vlogs are recorded live in front of a steering wheel on my way to getting my Friday morning coffee, delivered straight from the camera to you, unedited and raw. Today's subject matter will be a bit meandering. I was thinking about talking about e-bikes. Let's just do that. I haven't fully formed my thoughts around that, but we'll talk about e-bikes today. Quick bit of channel news. The wrist is doing much better. If you watched last week's Raw Vlog, you know that I got an infection in my wrist. Pain was really bad. It was pretty scary for a bit there. The update is, after some antibiotics and cleaning out and stuff, the infection is gone as far as we can tell. There's just a little bit of wound care remaining. I'm really stoked that the infection was just skin level, it was just at the top layer of the skin. So as far as we know, it didn't go anywhere near the bone. So it hasn't really been much of a setback. There's just a lot of psychological and emotional trauma, as well as the physical pain. But so we're back on the road to full recovery. Actually, the ortho has prescribed some PT for me, and the physical therapist should be calling me soon. So that's a really good sign that we are headed towards PT. So, jumping into the subject matter, e-bikes, specifically e-mountain bikes. So from here on, if I'm talking about e-bikes, I'm talking about e-mountain bikes. I have had a lot of varying opinions about e-bikes. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about e-bikes, specifically e-bikes out there on single track, out in wilderness areas. I know in a lot of wilderness areas, there's still, or not even just wilderness areas, but a lot of forestry land, they're still illegal to ride. And I know there are a lot of varying opinions. I kind of started out with the opinion that I think a lot of us have started with, which, simply put, riding an e-bike is just cheating. If you're gonna, you gotta earn your turns, that sort of concept. And my first the first thing that kind of chipped away at that philosophy was the fact that I have shuttled. I definitely go to the bike park and use lift access. So is that the same? I know there's a bit of overlap there because you're definitely not earning your turns. At a bike park, it's maybe a little bit different because it's set up for that. And you've got trails that are gravity fed trails built for people just ascending on heavy bikes, like a DH bike. And you can get into the other side of things where I hear people say there are people who are getting out onto the trails, getting out and riding with e-bikes, and they're getting out there. They wouldn't be out there if they didn't have the pedal assist. And my initial reaction to that is always I would rather invest in my fitness than and have built more of my fitness to kind of have with me, put that in my fitness bank rather than outsource that fitness. And that's coming from somebody who has the ability to continue building strength and stamina and all those things. I know that as we get older, we have less of a capacity to do that. And if, I definitely see those old salty dudes out there and ladies who have been mountain biking since they were 5 and have been, they're old now, just simply put, they're old, but they're still out there just cranking away. But if you're a lot of us who haven't started mountain biking until later in life, especially if you wanted to start, when you're I don't know, in your 50s or something, that could be pretty tough, especially if you're really out of shape. And so I can understand that, that the pedal assist will help you get out there on the trails, especially if you've got buddies who have more fitness than you. But then I always kind of come back a little bit and say, like, it does kind of scare me that like pedal assist can get somebody out onto the trails that doesn't have the fitness to get out there without the pedal assist. What happens if something goes wrong with the bike? And then I come back and I go like, well, you could say the same thing about somebody who maybe has some of the fitness but doesn't have the mechanical wherewithal to fix their bike should their bike break. So I definitely go back and forth on a lot of these things. I have like my kind of what I would call like my executive centers of my brain that like understand it and like it makes sense, like that you would like there's nothing wrong with e-bikes, like, and then there's that kind of like visceral part of me that's like connects e-mountain bikes to like backpack speakers out on single track. And I know it's not the same thing, but I kind of like, for whatever reason, I kind of put those things together, and I feel like there's, I don't know, maybe it goes back to like, you know, when I was doing a lot of hiking, you know, I would do like backcountry hiking, and you would spend this time and energy to plan to go out and be out where you were away from technology and you were away from everything, you know, powered stuff. And you know, you'd be out there and you would have your fire and your tent and do all these things, you know, to kind of like bring it back to basics. And then some crew would show up with like a freaking boombox and, you know, or whatever, and then just like, okay, now we might as well be, you know, in suburbia at this point. You know, you've spent these days hiking out into the woods, and now you can't get away from it. And yes, I know it's not the same, you know, as an e-bike, but that's just kind of how my brain has worked. I'm still kind of working through that because I know it doesn't help anybody out, I think, to ostracize somebody for riding a pedal assist mountain bike. Yeah, I mean, I have my gripes. Like there's places, like when I go to Sky Park, sometimes there'll be like a crew of people on e-mountain bikes that are totally fit, completely capable of pedaling up on a regular bike, but they're using the e-mountain bike to get in more laps, and they're just like cooking up the trail, and it's basically like a freaking Jeep just drove by and you're just covered in dust. There's etiquette that goes into that too, where you know, I've had people on a pedal assist bike like passing where you don't need to be passing, and just like being overly aggressive because they have pedal assist. And to me, that's almost, you know, that's just as bad as somebody who has more fitness and then just being a jerk because they know they can pedal faster than you and are going to pass you in a place that's like kind of not safe to pass, or just kind of like being a jerk to pass you. But you know, that's a whole etiquette thing, and that can be applied to anybody, regardless of whether you've got a e-mountain bike or not. So as you can see, I have like a lot of varying opinions, and I'm just kind of like all over the place with these things, but it kind of comes back to like my intellectual acceptance of pedal assist mountain bikes, and then like my kind of pure emotional visceral reaction to it. I don't know, like I recently saw Cam McCall's video where he got like his dad out there on trails that like he grew up riding, and it was, you know, he felt it was really rad that like he and his daughter and his dad and his brother could all like be out there riding these trails together, and you know, like the pedal assist mountain bike got his dad out there, and his dad was talking about like he wouldn't have been out there riding with his two sons and his granddaughter otherwise. And I found that kind of touching, and I dig that. And that's like, I think the story that's kind of the story that's told a lot. And I think the other story that's told a lot is like, it just kind of lets people get more laps. And this is probably going to be controversial, and I'll probably, a lot of you might kind of give me the thumbs down for this, but the getting more laps argument, I personally don't buy. I feel like you can, if you have the ability to get laps already, you can build your fitness and get more laps. The keeping up with your buddies, I think if it's like the situation where it's like a generation older, it's like your dad, or somebody who's quite a bit older, that kind of makes sense. But the like, oh, I don't like to be the person that people are having to wait on. Again, if it's like they're having to wait a little bit, so what? That's kind of what we do as mountain bikers. We take care of each other, and also riding with faster riders, people who can pedal faster, is going to make you faster, and eventually you're going to be the person waiting for somebody else, and that's just what we do. I mean, I know, like, I ride with people like Matt, who just is a beast on pedals, and this is him being out of shape, but he has no problem waiting for me. And that's kind of the other thing. It's like the whole thing about like, oh, they have to wait for me. Well, what about the descents? Like, like, that's okay too, though, right? That like, if you don't descend as fast as somebody else, they have to wait for you. And like, am I going to augment my bike in order to do that? Yeah, maybe I'm going to have more suspension. Yeah, so again, you can see I'm kind of all over the place. I'm going to get into this little bit. There's this like little kind of, maybe it's like overly philosophical or overly technical distinction that I make, because when you're talking about technology on the bike, you could be talking about rebound, damping circuits, and all the technology that goes into our suspension and our linkage systems and all that. And the distinction that I make is that all of that technology basically just kind of diverts energy. It diverts energy, or channels energy from gravity, from the trail, and from your muscular input. It never adds to the energy the way that a mountain bike, a pedal assist mountain bike does. Okay, what does that mean? I don't know. You let me know if that makes any difference to you, that like you go from having technology that like is helping you channel your muscular energy and gravity energy, versus something like a pedal assist bike, which is actually increasing the amount of energy that's being put into the system. It's like adding energy to the system. Is that like overly like abstract and philosophical? I don't know. I do have a tendency to do that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on e-mountain bikes, however controversial or convoluted or wishy-washy they are. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I hope that like you can relate to that, because I know when I have conversations with people about e-mountain bikes, it's kind of like that. So hopefully you can relate. I would love to hear what you have to say about e-mountain bikes. Like what's your take on it? So yeah, there we go. That's my raw vlog. I'm gonna go get some coffee. If you dug the video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from the MTB Allen channel, hit that subscribe button, comment, and if you didn't like it, and tell me why.